Okay, I am open up to Module 6, still within Week 3. So this is the third module within this week that we will be covering. And this will include Chapter 7, which is all about substance use and abuse. So here is your to-do list for this module. Let's dive into the objectives for the chapter. So obviously we're going to be taking a look all using substance use and abuse, which many of you have already been familiarized with. I mean, you've all probably taken a health class of some sort, and this is sort of like that, in that we will cover the basics, differences between what use is and abuse, as well as addiction and dependence. How do those operate, both on a physiological level and a psychological level, understanding the different social factors that contribute to dependence, whether that be on alcohol or drug dependence, and then as well withdrawal. What is withdrawal? How do people avoid it? What are some of the cues related to substance use that people sort of look for or start to expect? Here's where learning comes into play again. We associate certain cues with using or drinking, and those cues become sort of triggers to get us to behave in a certain way. And it comes with expectancies, and all of that contributes to dependence. We start to expect certain things given certain variables that are present, maybe in our environment. We'll look at some of the trends in smoking tobacco, as well as the patterns of a smoker, some different sociocultural differences in smoking, as well as people's reasons for smoking. One of the biggest sort of conundrums of today is that with all the evidence we have for, the maleffects of smoking and just how bad it is for you, it's amazing that people still choose to do it. So why? What are their reasons? We'll see that cognitive dissonance plays a huge role. People want to do it for whatever reasons they have, and so they come to see it as not so bad, because doing something that they know is not good for them is kind of hypocritical, and people don't like to be hypocritical, so they'll tend to downplay the negative effects of smoking so that they can sort of convince themselves it's not that bad. But we will look at the additive effects of nicotine and see just how smoking contributes to poor health and the various diseases associated with it. We'll then turn to alcohol use and abuse, some different trends and stats in that. Look at what is meant by the terms problem drinking as well as binge drinking, how they differ from quote-unquote alcoholism, and the different subcategories that encompasses, as well as people's reasons for drinking. Again, kind of falling in line with people's reasons for smoking. Understanding the different developmental aspects of drinking. So depending upon age and developmental stage, drinking can affect us very negatively. And again, just the powerful force of reinforcement and all those substance-related cues. Oftentimes people drink because of cues that are present that get them to drink, and sometimes those cues can be people, right? Certain people that we're around or environments. We'll look at some of the health hazards associated with drinking, and then we will turn to drug use for the latter third of the chapter, looking at some detailed programs targeted at the prevention of substance use. How can we prevent substance use and abuse? What are some policies put in place to do just that, as well as what are some legal issues surrounding substance use, huge legality issues there. And then the various categories for treatment. So we have a lot of options and choices today when it comes to treatment for substance abuse. And I put here highlighted in the class activity we did, but we're not going to be doing that actually here online. Sometimes I do it in the discussion, but we're not going to do it this time around. But just be looking in the text in the chapter for different options that people have for substance abuse, and oftentimes people intertwine these options. It's not just one or the other. Many substance abuse programs are multifaceted. They will treat it from different angles, different approaches, and this is key because relapse is a huge issue with substance abuse. A lot of times people recover, they get better, and they go right back into the same behavior, and that's largely due to environmental factors. A person gets clean, they're no longer addicted, but then they go right back to the same neighborhood where they were getting the drugs. They start hanging out with the same friends who use drugs or alcohol, and so it's only a matter of time before the willpower diminishes and they give in to that again and relapse. Also with this chapter, we will be covering another physiological system, the respiratory system. This is module number 4 in chapter 2. So you'll want to go ahead and go back to chapter 2 and read over module number 4, understanding our respiratory system. And we cover this with this chapter because we cover smoking. And obviously smoking has such a huge effect on our respiratory system, so I'd love to cover that at the same time that we're talking about that. So we'll look at the lungs and the anatomy of the lungs and the different disorders that fall suit from smoking, as well as some of the other substance use that we're going to be talking about. All right, you got your lecture slides, and then your discussion for this module is based on chapter 7 of the longevity project, but again, at any time that you can intertwine the main Serafino and Smith chapter, please do. You're going to be taking an assessment again in this chapter, and it deals with divorce, parental divorce. So you're going to be responding to the questions that it asks you. Again, like if your parents are still married, if they haven't got divorced, maybe you can interview another adult that you know, older adult that you know, maybe that has been divorced, and ask them those questions. For this assessment, you could always choose, to do it on someone else. So that's always an option. Don't ever think that, you're stuck there just on you. And some of the future chapters will be that way too. If ever something doesn't apply to you, try to think of someone else who maybe it does, and then you could just assess them and then talk about that. But the chapter is looking at the links between parental divorce and longevity. So those termites whose parents got divorced, how did that affect them as they became adults, and what role did personality play in that? So I think it'll be interesting. Definitely a good opportunity to kind of peek into your life and see maybe how, if your parents have divorced, how has that affected you health-wise, maybe in ways that you haven't even realized, even at a young age. All right, so we have the next exam, exam 2, which is covering chapters 5, 6, and 7, along with the physiological module, 4 from chapter 2. So that's again the respiratory system. So that's what exam 2 will cover, and that will wrap up the week, and that is the last module of week 3. So again, just please let me know. You guys have been great actually at emailing with questions and things like that. So let me know if anything comes up or you need clarification. If ever you're reading something in the text that doesn't make sense, that's where I am open and available to walking you through anything or answering any questions that you might have. If ever the slides are confusing, please let me know, and I would be glad to chat with you about that further. Okay, thanks everyone, and have a great week.